History rarely gifts us rivalries that feel handcrafted for an epic. But the duel between Hannibal Barca of Carthage and Publius Cornelius Scipio of Rome reads less like dusty history and more like a full-budget blockbuster. It spans continents, mountains, betrayal, genius, and revenge, so personal it crackles off the page. The day Rome saw death up close. In 216 BC, Rome sent the largest army in its history to crush the Carthaginian invader who'd marched across the Alps like some unstoppable force of nature. Instead, they were swallowed whole. Hannibal's double envelopment at Cannae remains one of the deadliest tactical maneuvers ever recorded. A young Roman officer, Scipio the Younger, watched the legions fold around him like they had stepped into a closing iron trap. Scipio hacked his way out of the encirclement with a handful of survivors, fleeing the battlefield with screams and dust chasing him like ghosts. That night, while the survivors whispered about abandoning Rome altogether, Scipio erupted with fury. He forced every man to swear an oath that Rome would never surrender. Anyone who broke it, he swore he would kill with his bare hands. Rome was trembling. Hannibal stood only days from the capital. Boys barely old enough to shave were shoved onto the walls with weapons taken from dusty trophy rooms. Yet Hannibal did not march on Rome. His aim wasn't destruction. He wanted Rome to kneel, not die. He badly miscalculated. Rome refuses to die. Instead of negotiating, the Romans plugged their ears like stubborn children and refused to even hear Hannibal's emissaries. They would not buy back their captured sons. They would not pay ransom. They would not discuss terms. If Hannibal wanted peace, he'd have to drag Rome to it by force. As months passed, cities across Italy switched sides and joined Hannibal. Carthage seemed poised for total victory, but Rome refused to behave like every other defeated state in history. It simply rebuilt, and rebuilt, and rebuilt again. It was like trying to kill a hydra. Rome revived an old tactic, the Fabian strategy. No pitched battles, no heroics, just harassment, starvation, and patience. Hannibal found himself sprinting across Italy trying to defend every allied city at once, exhausting his army. Meanwhile, Rome struck elsewhere, cutting off Carthage's support in Spain. The Scipio brothers fall. In Iberia, Scipio's father and uncle, the Scipio brothers, waged a campaign to choke off Hannibal's reinforcements. For years they succeeded, but in 211 BC, Carthaginian commanders struck back, bribed Roman mercenaries, and crushed both Scipios. Scipio the Younger received the message like a dagger to the soul. In one war, he had lost his father, uncle, and countless comrades. His grief turned into something sharper than pain. Vengeance. When Rome asked for a volunteer to take command in Spain, only one man stepped forward. Scipio, 24 years old, underage, unproven. But he demanded the command, and Rome, out of options, granted it. Scipio's rise, a genius is born. Unlike other Roman generals, Scipio didn't cling to tradition. He studied Hannibal's techniques, dissecting them like puzzles. If Rome wanted to defeat Hannibal, they would have to stop fighting like Romans and start fighting like Africans. He trained his men relentlessly through winter and struck with surgical speed at New Carthage, the heart of Carthaginian Spain. The city was considered nearly impregnable, guarded by water on 3 sides. Scipio captured it in one day. The victory flipped Iberian tribes to his side, turning Carthage's former allies into Rome's new friends. For the next 4 years, Scipio shredded Carthaginian forces, culminating in his masterpiece at the Battle of Ilipa, where he reversed his army's formation at dawn and smashed a force nearly twice his size. By 206 BC, Carthage's power in Spain was reduced to ash. The silver mines, soldiers, and supplies that had fueled the Barca war machine were gone. Carthage was bleeding out, and Scipio was not done. From Spain to Africa, returning to Rome a hero, Scipio pushed for a daring plan. Take the fight to Africa. Strike at Carthage itself. The Senate was horrified. Fabius Maximus, Rome's master of caution, nearly exploded. But Scipio had already reshaped Spain, and soon he would reshape the world. On Sicily, Scipio gathered volunteers. the most surprising supporters were the disgraced survivors of Cannae, men branded cowards for a decade. They flocked to Scipio for redemption, ready to bleed for any chance to reclaim their honor. In 204 BC, Scipio landed in Africa and joined forces with Massinissa, the brilliant Numidian horseman who had abandoned Carthage after predicting Rome's eventual victory. Carthage panicked. They begged for negotiations. Their ally Syphax tried to broker peace, but Scipio used the meeting to spy on enemy camps. At night, he set both camps ablaze and slaughtered tens of thousands of fleeing soldiers. The survivors of Cannae fought like men possessed. For the first time since their humiliation, their blades tasted justice. Carthage calls home. Its monster. Desperate, Carthage recalled Hannibal from Italy. The commander who had nearly toppled Rome returned home to defend a city he had left as a youth. He barely recognized it. He was given every last soldier Carthage could find, along with 80 war elephants. Hannibal marched out to face Scipio on the plains of Zama, where the clash that would determine the Mediterranean's fate was set. The two generals met face to face. Hannibal warned Scipio that fortune was fickle. Many years before, Hannibal stood where Scipio now stood, young, victorious, invincible. And fate had destroyed him. She would destroy Scipio too. Scipio refused peace. Tomorrow, one of them would rule history, the other would be swallowed by it. Zama, the clash of legends. Hannibal arranged his army in 3 lines with elephants at the front. Scipio responded with a clever formation. Hidden corridors within his infantry ranks, invisible until opened. When the elephants charged, the corridors parted like jaws, funneling the beast harmlessly through the Roman line. Trumpets blared. Javelins rained down. Many elephants panicked and trampled Hannibal's own cavalry. Then came infantry combat that lasted for hours. Hannibal's elite veterans eventually pushed back the Romans. For a moment, it seemed Hannibal had turned time backward, but then Scipio saw dust in the distance. Massinissa's cavalry, Rome's cavalry, was returning. They smashed into Hannibal's rear, collapsing his formation. 20,000 Carthaginians fell. 20,000 more were captured. Hannibal barely escaped. The Second Punic War was over. Rome had won. Triumph and tragedy. Carthage was forced to burn its fleet, surrender territory, ask Rome's permission to wage even defensive wars, and pay 50 years of reparations. Scipio was renamed Scipio Africanus, the man who defeated the greatest general Rome had ever faced. Hannibal became a political reformer, but was hunted across the Mediterranean by Roman spies. Cornered near the Black Sea, he chose poison, remarking that Rome should finally be relieved of its fear of an old man. Scipio Africanus also died in voluntary exile, disillusioned by Rome's jealousy and politics. His final message was carved into his tomb. "Ungrateful fatherland, you will not even have my bones." Carthage's second death. But the story does not end here. Carthage rebuilt with terrifying speed. Within 10 years, they were so wealthy they offered to pay their 50-year debt early. Rome refused. They wanted Carthage to suffer. When Carthage later defended itself against Numidian aggression, technically violating the treaty, Rome seized the excuse. The Romans demanded hostages, then demanded weapons, then demanded the impossible: Carthage must move its entire population inland and abandon the coast forever. Only then did the Carthaginians understand. Rome wanted them erased. The city erupted. Mothers screamed as their children were taken away. Citizens rioted. Carthage armed itself with everything from homemade spears to ropes braided from women's hair. Rome sent an army led by Scipio Aemilianus, the adoptive grandson of Scipio Africanus. After a brutal siege, he razed the greatest city of the Western Mediterranean to dust. Survivors were sold into slavery. The city burned for days. As flames devoured the skyline, Scipio wept. He whispered that one day Rome would suffer the same fate, and he recited the lines of Hector foreseeing the fall of Troy. History, he knew, is a circle, and that is the story of how two brilliant commanders shaped the destiny of the ancient world, and how their rivalry echoed long after their bones turned to dust. If you enjoyed this journey through battles, betrayals, and the rise and ruin of empires, make sure you tap that like and don't forget to subscribe. Until then, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.